Welcome back to EnvironMental with Dandelion. This is our podcast where we dive deep into sustainability. I'm Courtney and this is Ob. We're your hosts and we're the co-founders of Dandelion Branding. We go from managing communications for sustainable brands to this podcast twice a month. And our goal in everything that we do is really to bring sustainability into mainstream conversations. Now, you might know that the algorithm doesn't always love conversations around sustainability. And in an act of rebellion, we refuse to censor these conversations and these topics. So if you are into inspiring sustainability stories, then help us to spread the word by liking this episode, subscribing to our podcast, and sharing our episodes with your friends that care or your friends that you want to care. Spread it all around. Everybody's got to be talking about these things, right? So today we are talking about some fast good news with policy updates and new ways of conservation. Exciting. A little bit of an ugly update on e-waste. And we're sharing some high-level overviews of a Greenpeace defamation lawsuit that is ongoing. So let's jump into it.
You say it, and the last thing you say is like the worst, the long-term thing, and then I'm like, brow. And then I think, okay, well, ready?
Bring it
Let's
back
do
up.
Here's some fast good news because everyone deserves fast good news right now. We are still following deep sea mining news, and another country said no to the destruction of the ocean. This time it is New Caledonia, and they put a 50-year moratorium on it. It is a win for the ocean and a reminder that our oceans are not for sale. If you haven't already signed the petition and signed up for the change.org notification, please do it in the show notes. This is really important. In policy news, NPR and the Associated Press report that Hawaii is raising taxes on hotels, vacation rentals, and short-term stays. That means you Airbnb. And they're earmarking the extra income to help Hawaii cope with the cost of climate change. Super exciting, I think. We need more of that.
Yeah, it's really impacted.
Between the de-extinction of dire wolves and habitat conservation, genetic testing and research is really starting to take off in the conservation world. The Royal Gazette reported that scientists are doing genetic testing on Bermuda cedars to identify the protected legacy trees on the island and help preserve a critical part of Bermuda's ecosystem. That's your fast good news. Honestly, good news is actually starting to become a little challenging to find. So if you come across it, put it in the comments. Let us know the good news you're seeing because we definitely need some help there. I want more good news. Please shower good news.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Yes.
Yeah.
Send it to us.
Yeah.
We need it. We need it.
It was a breath of fresh air. We talked about this a little bit before the show, but like something I would love to do an actual deep dive on in one of these episodes is the ethics behind the genetics and the de-extinction stuff out there.
Yeah. I think that it's a wild space and it's like emerging, and then there are ways in which they're sort of framing it as a way to help endangered species, right? As you were saying, like with conservation efforts and stuff. So
but they're really using these buzzy like woolly mammoths and dire wolf situation, and like I get it, but it's deeper. It goes deeper than that, and I want to understand it and like do a deeper dive on it, and maybe just us have a conversation about it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, the fact that that news of the dire wolf spread across the globe so quickly means that like this is something that folks are curious about. You know, I think that there's ways that we can frame this, then similar ways that continues that kind of intrigue and curiosity. So we'll see.
Yeah.
How
do we make sustainability as like exciting?
Viral as a dire wolf.
Yeah. Can you go as viral as a dire wolf though? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm rewatching Game of Thrones. I don't know.
Everyone's like, bitch, we got direwolves on the planet now. Let's rewatch Game of Thrones. It's probably the best PR stuff they've ever pulled.
Boy, oh boy. So yeah, stay tuned. If we'll learn more, and then we'll tell you some more. We'll get there. Yeah. I think that would be interesting. I would like to know more, frankly. In other news, in our latest sustainability news episode, we talked entirely about the recycling industry and the literal dumpster fire that is recycling, and how is primarily, comes from the West, shipped to other countries, typically developing countries, and it's a pretty problematic industry. And we have a little bit of another ugly update because the industry continues to boom in all the worst ways. Associated Press reported that Thai officials seized 238 tons of illegally imported electronic waste from the US.
Like last month. Like one shipment last month.
One shipment. And then in January, it seized 256 tons of illegally imported electronic waste. So this is consistent. It's coming from a variety of countries, it looks like. But still, e-waste is a huge, huge problem. And there really aren't great solutions yet. We really wish we had the solution.
The unfortunate reality is that, like, it's getting worse. And the UN is tracking that. And in 2024, they reported that the waste is rising 5 times faster than the documented recycling. And that because there are so many different types of electronics, and now like we're too decentralized to create a unified system and an infrastructure for e-waste, it's definitely going to get worse before it gets better. Like there really actually isn't a solution.
No, the world is begging for one. Someone, please.
Yeah.
But
it seems like one of the problems is that the world is begging for it, or like, the Netherlands is begging for it. So the Netherlands comes up with a solution, and then that solution is different in Spain, and it's different in the US or in California as it is in Michigan, and like there is no unified solution. So it confuses the consumer in an industry that already doesn't have enough information as it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really frustrating.
Yeah.
If you watched our last episode, like we were really frustrated just at that. And like we actually had a previous podcast guest reach out to us who's an expert in recycling. And she was like, please don't lose hope. Please don't lose hope.
She's like, please don't lose hope in recycling. It was so sweet. I actually ended up on a call with her right before this recording, and I asked her what she thinks we should do. And she said, the immediate thing, like right now, is if you have batteries, do not put them in your trash. Don't put them in recycling. Even if they have the recycling logo on them, don't do that, because the trash cans crush them and there's so much friction that they catch on fire. And it is a crazy amount of fires happening all over the place. These are like, if it's just a truck, it's a $30,000 truck, or it could be at the recycling plant, and then that whole piece of infrastructure, it goes down and needs to be fixed. It's also extremely dangerous. So just like, don't put your batteries in the trash. Like, she was so adamant about it. So I'm glad to be able to share that. And she said that the next thing you do is find your nearest e-waste recycling to you. Pause the episode right now. We're not going to wait. You can push pause and then open a new tab and Google where the nearest e-waste recycling plant is and try to figure out a way to drop that off. I know it can be really stressful and frustrating to find the right partner there. And then the absolute best thing and longer term thing you can do is demand it from your local government. Is just reach out to them, tell them that you support them funding, collecting, recycling, enforcing that recycling, and then that they need to also be following up on whether or not that recycling is actually happening. Marissa said that that is one of the most important things you can do.
The follow-up specifically, or just
specifically the follow-up to make sure that it's happening, because otherwise you're going to have like Thailand,
right,
238 tons of illegally imported electronic waste, like that happens.
Right. We need this, yeah, whoever's collecting it to be reputable and trackable, and that they're not just operating, some sort of scam, essentially. Yeah. So if it's
Yeah.
actually regulated, perhaps even mandated by the government, that's a good thing in my book, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love,
So
yeah.
contact your
Thank you,
local
Marissa.
government. Yeah, thank
Thank you,
you.
Marissa. Appreciate you. Thank you for all the work you do.
Yeah. Recycling champion. She told me
Yeah.
today that she's going to be the last person holding the hope stick.
Oh my gosh.
And
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
like, I love you and I love your
Yeah.
message. Makes me so
No,
happy.
honestly, that was really touching that she reached out and was like, "Don't lose hope." Like that was really, really sweet. I think because everybody needs those reminders, right? It
Yeah.
can be really daunting learning about this stuff and learning about how all these systems are interconnected, and it's just all a lot stacked up against us right now.
Yeah, we do.
Right. Which leads us sort of to the main topic of this conversation,
Every
which
time we
is
go to talk about our longer thing, we're like, okay, buckle up.
buckle up, buddy.
Like
It's the
eventually
mountain.
maybe there will be less conspiracies to talk about, but like somehow we always end up at this crazy thing is going on.
They're not even conspiracies at this point. It's just crazy
Yeah,
things
that's
that are
fair.
happening.
Yeah, it's fair and true.
Yes. Yeah. Perhaps it would be more lighthearted to talk about conspiracies than talking about reality right now. But we are rooted in reality because that's what we're up against. That's what we're facing. We're in this together. We're in this together. All right.
We're in this together. We're
Yeah.
going to talk
Let's
about
talk.
the Greenpeace lawsuit.
Yep. Okay. I honestly did not hear about this. I did not hear about this until you brought this to my attention.
Yeah, I think it's been really quiet. It was decided in March, actually at the very end of March. But it's actually been going on since like 2019 and really it's been going on since 2017. Do you want just like the quick and dirty details?
Yeah. 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 So who's suing who? What's the deets? Yeah.
All right. So Greenpeace, actually, I should clarify, Greenpeace USA, Greenpeace International, and Greenpeace Fund were all sued by Energy Transfer, which is an oil and gas company. So those three were like named specifically in the suit. So this all stems from 2016. Greenpeace, together with the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, led peaceful protests for like almost 2 years because the Dakota Access Pipeline threatened sacred lands, treaty rights, cultural sites for indigenous tribes of North Dakota. And literally thousands of people protested, and there was a police presence there. It was really intense. Do you remember?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It was huge. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it got a lot of media attention. I
Yep.
mean, this is a defamation lawsuit, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yeah, because of that media attention, Energy Transfer is saying that Greenpeace was behind defamation and alleged harm because they claim that the protests and media campaigns caused significant harm and damages to their reputation. I mean, they're not exactly wrong, and I think that that's not exactly a bad thing because I mean, I have my own opinions, right, and so do you, but they were absolutely digging up like land and burial sites and things for this pipeline. The indigenous tribes were not asked about this pipeline before it went in. Yeah. So Greenpeace has said that the lawsuit is designed to stifle their activism. I should note also here that this is a North Dakota state case and that Energy Transfer tried to file a federal case in 2017 while this was happening and it was thrown out in 2019. Like it was just like, miss me with that.
okay.
Americans have rights. And
Hmm.
then they went to North Dakota in 2019. In the North Dakota case, it was tried by a jury, and Greenpeace lost. So they ruled in favor of Energy Transfer, and Greenpeace now has to pay more than $660 million. This was just, so this is what the decision was at the end of March. Now, I think it gets interesting here. I think the whole thing is interesting. But Greenpeace is appealing the case, but they're also suing Energy Transfer back in the Netherlands, because Greenpeace is rooted in the Netherlands, um, under a new law, a 2024 European Union law, called the SLAPP, which is the Strategic Litigation Against Public Participation. And the EU defines it as SLAPPs are unfounded and abusive legal actions that aim to silence those working in the public interest on matters such as fundamental rights, the environment, and public access to information. So this will actually be one of the first SLAPP litigations in the world, because this law is only like literally a year old. So that is happening in July. So I'm sure that in like maybe August's episode, or depending on how long the case goes on for, like that will be our update of that month.
Yeah.
Wild.
Going down. Yeah. And it is wild. It's wild that the jury found them guilty. That's really interesting in my opinion.
I think so too. But I see both sides there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I remember so this is anecdotal, of course, but in 2016, I drove through North Dakota, and the people that I met along the way are folks that work on these pipelines. They don't have a very big population, and their population is made up of people who work in the energy sector. And this was huge. It was disruptive to people's lives. It was hard. They were screamed at and judged. And even if it was a peaceful protest, like things were said. So for North Dakota, like this was really intense, right?
Super personal for them. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really personal. So part of me isn't very surprised that they voted in favor of the energy company.
Yeah, that's true. Because, yeah, those are local people. Yeah, but it's interesting though that the federal case was shot down so quickly. But yeah, they were still able to find some grounds there on a more local level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that has to do with the anti-protest laws, which are state by state
For now. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's some quotes that I guess that for both sides about this case. That these are pretty interesting. So the Greenpeace USA interim executive director, whose name is Sushma Raman, told reporters that, quote, this trial is a critical test of the future of the First Amendment, both freedom of speech and peaceful protest under the Trump administration and beyond. Then a bad ruling in this case could put our rights and freedoms in jeopardy for all of us, whether we are journalists, protesters, or anyone who wants to engage in public debate, which is the crux of the issue sort of here, right? Is sort of,
Yeah.
like, yeah, how liable is someone who's saying like, Chevron is bad? Can Chevron just be like, no, you can't say that about us. Now we'll put you in jail. Is that the
You
precedent
can't say
that we're
that. Yeah.
right? Right. Is that the precedent that's being sort of set?
Yeah. Feels like it, right? But then
They're trying.
at the same time, the Energy Transfer company said it's not about free speech, as they're trying to claim. We support the rights of all Americans to express their opinions and lawfully protest. However, when it's not done in accordance with our laws, we have a legal system to deal with that. I don't know. I couldn't find the actual evidence, and to be clear, I didn't spend like hours searching for this, that like Greenpeace is liable for protesters getting, like, I don't know. Like hundreds of people were arrested here, but they were arrested as human, as like individuals doing things, not like under the guise of Greenpeace, right? Greenpeace had a presence there. Yes, they were helping to like share these rights, but
Right. Can the organizers of the protest really be held responsible for an individual action there? I
right.
don't know. Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's like what we're seeing now is, yeah. But I don't think that but Do they have to prove that Greenpeace like convinced people to be like more violent or express? I don't know, man. I think if your president can incite a terrorist attack and a riot and kind of get like poo-pooed on, but Greenpeace can't have a protest over ancient burial grounds and they're having to pay millions of dollars. I think it goes a little bit deeper than this is just my personal opinion. I'm just a girl on the internet, but I think it goes deeper than like, okay, we have laws about protesting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. They're just mad that they weren't able to build it as quickly as they wanted and they lost out on profit potential and they got somewhat of a bad rap. I don't know. But I feel like putting their name out there, I had never even heard of Energy Transfer as a company.
No,
Like, I did not, my interpretation of the protests was kind of speaking about the oil and gas industry as a whole and more so speaking about like protecting lands.
yeah.
Like it was
And indigenous
never
rights
about
and
a
tree, yeah. And the
particular
boundaries that like
company.
we agreed to. Yeah.
Right. It wasn't about a particular company. It was like, so in almost in doing like this lawsuit, it's sort of like, I don't know, have you ever heard of the Streisand effect?
No, but I
Thing
want to
from
know.
like it's this concept where I don't know, some picture was taken of Barbara Streisand's house back in the 90s and she flipped out about it, sued people, and then all of a sudden it like everybody wanted to see this picture that she wanted hidden. So it's like
Yeah.
you're
Okay.
almost doing this, you're bringing more attention and more potential scrutiny to your company.
100%.
Right. So it's sort of like I don't even know if this will work out in in their favor in the long run.
Yeah, because if they didn't, I mean, if they didn't have negative press before, like certainly they're under scrutiny and like they don't have my vote ever again, like that company. Seriously, some guys.
Yeah, I mean, right. It's sort of, yeah. So it's an interesting move, though. Yeah, I definitely think that there's larger things at play in terms of kind of trying to rein in on what public protests and freedoms we have. So
Yeah,
that's scary territory.
it's really scary. Also to note, like the pipeline has been active since 2017, so they didn't actually lose that much. Like I think that that goes to show, yeah, to your point, like the implications of this case are social, not monetary.
Right. And I think that they're just trying to set some precedents here. Yeah.
It's just really scary. The Greenpeace interim director also had this to say about the case after it was won, which is that this case should alarm everyone, no matter their political inclinations. It's part of a renewed push by corporations to weaponize our courts to silence dissent. We should all be concerned about the future of the First Amendment and lawsuits like this aimed at destroying our rights to peaceful protest and free speech. I agree. Especially because I looked into this and I didn't know about these anti protest laws, but I found a lot of them. And there's only like 3 states that didn't try to make these anti-protest laws, which is crazy. But they're all different, but and they are still currently being moved through the system, like as even as so far as like a month ago, like or like right now, more were
Yeah.
put into place. Like this started after the Dakota pipeline protests got so big. Like they weren't a thing until 2017.
The anti protest laws, you mean?
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah. They weren't a thing until this whole thing started with the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Yeah, they're definitely increasing as of late for different reasons. They all have various reasons, but yeah, we're going to put a couple links that I think are some really interesting resources about some of the active anti protest laws that are happening around the states. So you can kind of see and check out what might be potentially impacting you that you might not have heard
Yeah.
of.
There's also actually on here, I can also see that there are a ton pending federally. So I personally think that the reason why the 2017 case, the federal case from Energy Transfer was thrown out is because they didn't have this. Because, yeah, First Amendment rights, you can say whatever you want. But North Dakota does have an anti protest law. And under that, I think That's why they were more able to say that Greenpeace was breaking the law in terms of being there. It's wild. It's wild.
It's really wild, and it's a very, very slippery slope, and it's something I find very scary on a daily basis.
Why is that even a thing? That's not constitutional.
We're on a path towards the Constitution being different, perhaps, than we recall it or learned it.
Yep. Yeah.
We the people, yeah.
So that's a crazy thing, these anti-protest laws. But the best thing that we can do is know your rights, what they actually are. They are granted to us. It is written down and agreed upon. And I mean, barring an anti-protest law, you might want to check that out for your own state, which we'll put in there. There is a tracker online. This site is the International Center for Nonprofit Law, has a US protest law tracker. And the ACLU has a know your rights, protester rights for everybody, from the people who are organizing the protest, people who are attending it, people who want to take photos, or if you are stopped by the police, what your rights are at a protest actually. So I definitely think you should read them. I definitely think you should go to protests because your voice matters, even if you feel like they don't.
It does, probably more so now than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is important to be aware that that there are very real risks that you're putting yourself into, I suppose, by attending some. There always is when you're fighting the good fight.
Yeah, there is. I don't have anything positive to say about watching Americans' rights being taken away, or learning about this.
I mean, I guess that's a good thing that you don't have anything positive to say about that, because it is devastating. It's weird. I don't even know. Yeah, there's no real words to describe it besides just a decline into authoritarianism. So we just got to keep kind of watching. I don't know. I have the glimmers of hope that I am experiencing are the fact that we do have a judicial system that is still functioning, and that there are cases that are constantly being thrown out at the federal level because they're unconstitutional. So I think, there are definitely.
That's what the federal judicial system is for. It's for keeping the government in check.
Right. The checks and balances might be like, whoa, a little wavy right now, but there's not non-existent.
They're not non-existent. Yeah. If you have one of those actual scales and you slap it, on one side, it does this for a minute before it balances out again. Yeah.
Right.
Let's just hope that it
the
actually balances.
5 years. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's just, right. Yeah. Let's hope it balances again and no one else smacks it too much.
That's what's going on. It's just
smacking the scales.
Yeah. It's stressful.
We always laugh at these things. I don't mean to laugh I laugh out of, I don't know.
There's not another way.
Right. This is not funny. But how else do we carry on and exist as hopeful humans without,
Yeah. There's not really other options. We can fall into despair. We can cry. Or we can talk about it on the internet and try to laugh at the darkness.
Truthfully, all three. Do them all. Do it all. Do all those things.
Yes, but don't stay in despair, okay? Let's just try. Let's just be a little bit more like Marissa Segundo and hold the stick of hope.
Hold the stick of hope. Yeah. Yes. We are in this together, and there are a lot of people out there that are similar minded, that are really, that are working to stop this craziness from happening. Not all hope is lost, that is for sure.
No, and we interview them very regularly on our other type of podcast through EnvironMental, where we interview people who are making differences in the business world for sustainability, and a lot of them are involved in making change also on the policy level. So If you're into those stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends and your family, because definitely we end up on lists and the algorithm doesn't love that. So thanks for sticking around.
Thanks for sticking around. Appreciate you, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see
See
you
you
next
next
time.
time.
Bye.